In the MLB, umpires make bad calls quite frequently, and sometimes bad calls can cost teams games and even championships. So today we're going to take a look at 5 missed calls that have rewritten the history of baseball. Let's get this started with number 5. Number 5 takes place in Game 1 of the 1996 American League Championship Series. It's the bottom of the 8th and the Orioles are up 4-3. Derek Jeter steps to the plate and hits a ball deep to right field. Orioles outfielder Tony Tarasco moved near the fence to try to catch the ball, but a 12-year-old kid reaches over the fence and grabs the ball, preventing Tarasco from catching it. The umpire initially calls it a home run, even though if we take a closer look, the fan clearly reached over the fence. The ball was clearly not going to be a home run. Tarasco might have caught it, but even if he didn't, it would have been a double at most. The call that should have been made was fan interference, which would have rewarded Jeter with a base hit or an out, based on the umpire's decision. Since this game took place before instant replay and challenges were a part of the game, the call on the field stood as a home run. The Yankees would win the game and win the series in 5. Eventually, they would win the World Series over the Atlanta Braves. If this bad call hadn't been made, the Orioles could have been the 1996 World Series champions. Number 4. Max Scherzer's almost perfect game. In a 2015 game between the Nationals and Pirates, Washington's ace, Max Scherzer, had not allowed a base runner and was 1 out away from completing the 24th perfect game in Major League history. Jose Tabata pinch hit for the Pirates in place of relief pitcher Vance Worley. After throwing 2 balls and 2 strikes, Scherzer threw an inside slider that hit Tabata on the elbow. But if we take a look back at the replay, it's pretty obvious that Tabata leaned into the pitch, which is an illegal move. Since it was a judgment call, just like balls and strike calls are, the Nationals couldn't challenge the call. If they had been able to, the call would have more than likely been overturned and just been ruled a ball. Scherzer would still go on to retire the next batter and complete a no-hitter, which is still incredibly hard to do, but is not near as impressive as a perfect game. Moving on to number 3. This missed call takes place in Game 4 of the 1999 ALCS between the Yankees and Red Sox. Heading into the game, the Yankees were leading the series 2-3. After 7 innings of play, the Yankees were winning 3-2. With 1 out and a man on first, John Valentine of the Red Sox hit a ground ball to second baseman Chuck Noblaw of the Yankees. Noblaw was in the perfect position to turn a double play, but he missed the first runner by almost a yard. The throw to first got Valentine out, but somehow the runner on his way to second base was called out too. Red Sox manager races out of the dugout to protest the call. There was clearly no tag made by Noblaw, but somehow he was still called out, which meant the inning was over. Since you couldn't challenge a call until 2014, the call on the field stood, and both runners were out. If the right call had been made, Boston would have had a runner in scoring position and a chance to tie the game and the series. But instead, the Yankees won the game, the series, and their 25th World Series title. This bad call would be infamously named the Phantom Tag. Number 2 is another pitcher that was just 1 out from completing a perfect game. On June 2nd, 2010, the Tigers and Indians were set to play an AL Central matchup at Comerica Park in Detroit. Heading into the top of the 9th inning, Detroit was up 3-0 and their starting pitcher, Armando Galaraga, had not allowed a single base runner. The first batter he faced in the top of the 9th flew out to center field. The second grounded out to short. Indians shortstop Jason Donald stepped up to the plate, and Galaraga was 1 out away from throwing a perfect game. After working the count to 1-1, Donald hit a ground ball to first baseman Miguel Cabrera, who made the throw to Galaraga to step on first for an obvious out. But umpire Jim Joyce somehow called Donald safe at first base. Everyone in the entire stadium knew he was out, and they were shocked that he was called safe. Miguel Cabrera puts his hands on his head. Tigers manager comes out of the dugout to protest the call, and it's pretty obvious that he was out by a whole step. The call could not be challenged, and instead of a perfect game, Galaraga had thrown a 1-hit shutout. After the game, Jim Joyce apologized, and Galaraga forgave him, so it wasn't as big of a deal, but it was still a terrible mistake. Last but not least, number 1. This is easily one of the most famous blown calls in the history of sports. In the 1985 playoffs, the Cardinals had made it to the World Series for the National League, and on the American League side, it was the Kansas City Royals. After winning 3 of the first 5 games, the Cardinals had a 1-run lead heading into the bottom of the 9th inning of Game 6. Just 3 outs, and the St. Louis Cardinals would be crowned the 1985 World Series champions. Todd Worrell was on the mound to try to retire the last 3 batters. On an 0-2 count, Royals lefty Jorge Orta hit a ground ball to the first baseman. First baseman threw it back to Worrell for what should have been the first out of the inning. Don Dinkinger calls Orta safe instead though. Every angle of instant replay shows that it was an obvious out, but even after protest on the field, the call stood. Eventually the Royals would score 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th and win the game. They also won Game 7 and the World Series. If this had been called as an out, the Cardinals could have very easily had another World Series. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Leave a like for part 2 and subscribe for more baseball videos just like this one.